Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into a source that caught our attention. It's called The Man Who Feels. And it's all about this idea that it's, well, crucial for men to acknowledge and, importantly, express their emotions.
Yeah, exactly. It pushes back against that, classic stereotype, the stoic, strong, silent type.
Right.
This source just turns that on its head. It argues that actually real strength involves feeling things, being able to talk about them.
Okay.
So our mission today really is to unpack what The Man Who Feels is arguing, why it makes this case for emotional openness in men.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
So how does it start? How does the source, frame this whole conversation? What vibe is it trying to set?
Well, it's pretty deliberate about it. It explicitly says it wants to be a space to, quote, break the silence. A place where vulnerability isn't just like tolerated, it's actively encouraged. It's trying to get men to be real, to drop the whole I'm fine act when they're not.
Yeah.
So it sets this expectation right away. This isn't going to be the usual kind of chat.
And it goes right after those common phrases, doesn't it? The ones we hear all the time that basically tell guys to shut down.
Are absolutely things like man up or don't cry. It calls those out directly, rejects them.
Yeah.
And the counter argument it makes is quite powerful. It suggests real strength is feeling. That facing your inner stuff, that's where the real power is.
Right. It's redefining strength.
Exactly. Moving it away from being just tough on the outside towards something more like internal honesty.
Makes you think, those little phrases, how much they add up over a lifetime. So who is this source trying to talk to? Who's the target audience here?
It's pretty clear on that. It says it's speaking to every man who has ever been told to hide his emotions.
Okay.
And every boy who learned to smile when he wanted to scream. Anyone carrying unspoken pain, maybe fathers, brothers, sons, partners.
Right.
And it really stresses this idea of no judgment, no shame. Just honesty, healing, and heart. That promise of no judgment feels key, doesn't it? To making people feel safe enough to open up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think you'll be shot down or made fun of, you just won't go there. The walls stay up.
Exactly.
Now, it doesn't just say that men should open up. It gives reasons why. What's the logic behind it, according to the source?
Yeah, it connects the dots really well between burying emotions and, well, bad outcomes.
Oh.
The argument is that when you push feelings down, they don't just vanish. They curdle, basically. Like unexpressed anger can become this simmering rage, or unspoken grief just leads to this heavy silence. And definitely unhealed emotional wounds, they can build huge walls in relationships.
Yeah, they really can.
It paints a pretty clear picture of the cost, both inside you and in how you connect with others.
Those examples make it very real. It's not just some abstract idea. It affects your life, your connections.
Right.
And then there's that big one, the idea that being emotional is somehow unmanly.
And it tackles that head on. This is a really critical reframe it offers. It says flat out, feeling is not the opposite of masculinity. It is part of it. It challenges that really narrow definition we often get. It says, look, you could be strong and sensitive, brave and vulnerable, tough and tender, all at the same time.
It's allowing for the whole person.
Exactly. Expanding the definition to allow for a more complete, more, human experience rather than boxing men into this tiny corner of acceptable feelings.
Yeah, like you should only have access to anger or stoicism, maybe?
Kind of, yeah.
And the source gives a little preview of other topics it wants to cover, too.
It does. It mentions things like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Basically, understanding and managing your own feelings and recognizing others.
Right, EQ.
Yeah, that. And also mental health, relationships, healing from trauma. And it brings up redefining manhood beyond numbness, which loops right back to what we were just saying. These are all clearly linked areas where being more emotionally open is, well, pretty vital.
And it's interesting, while it's focused on men, it does give a nod to another group.
It does, yeah. It specifically includes women who want to understand the men in their lives better.
That's smart.
It is. It recognizes that this isn't just about men fixing themselves in isolation. It's about improving understanding, improving connections between people.
Yeah.
Better communication overall.
Which benefits everyone.
No.
Okay, and the word healing pops up quite a bit. How does the source talk about healing?
It frames healing as a basic human process, something we all need, maybe in different ways at different times. And it really underlines that the first step, the absolute starting point for healing, is honesty. Being honest with yourself about what's really going on inside.
Right.
It suggests you can't really start dealing with emotional stuff until you actually admit it's there.
Makes total sense. Can't fix a problem you pretend doesn't exist. And it wants people to do more than just listen, right? There's a call to action.
Yeah, definitely. It encourages listeners to subscribe, to share it with others who might need to hear it, and to leave comments.
Okay.
There's even a specific prompt asking people to share one emotion you're learning to embrace, which is quite direct, gets you thinking personally.
That's a great question. Moves it from just listening to actually doing some self-reflection.
Right. And it fosters that sense of community it seems to be aiming for.
Yeah, you mentioned community.
Exactly. The source says it wants to build this community one truth at a time, reinforcing that idea that you don't have to go through this stuff alone, that sharing can actually help.
Validation, support.
Yeah, precisely.
And then it wraps it all up with a really neat final line.
It does. The source finishes by saying, it's a space where we feel so we can heal.
Powerful.
Yeah, it really sums up the whole philosophy, the whole point of the man who feels.
So boiling it down, the source makes this really strong argument for men embracing emotions, not as weakness, but as like a core part of strength of being whole.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
It reframes being emotionally open as, well, essential. Essential for healing, for better relationships, for just living a more authentic life.
Yeah.
It goes right up against those old societal rules that told men to bottle things up, which, as the source argues, ultimately hurts their well-being.
It really does make you think about the potential shift, doesn't it? If we just allowed men to simply feel.
It really does. You start thinking about, all those messages we absorb about how men are supposed to act.
Right.
And could change if we just, opened up that definition. Allowed for more honesty.
A lot to chew on there. What kind of connections might be possible?
Indeed. You wonder what walls might come down, what relationships might deepen if there was just more permission broadly to feel things and talk about them honestly.